Welcome to Hollywood Holmes, the show where we explore the inside of Hollywood. I'm Todd Holmes, and today I'm joined with show actor, casting director, and now commercial associate with the Eris Talent Agency, Doug Haley. Doug,
Hi,
thank you so
Todd.
much for being here with us.
Good to be
Appreciate it.
here.
Yeah,
Fun times.
our pleasure. Yes, yes. So yeah, we'll just kind of jump right in, and the first thing I want to try to find out is a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into acting and just sort of I assume maybe for a lot of people, acting is a childhood dream, and I'm wondering, is that the way it started with you, or were there other things that got you
Yeah,
into
you
acting?
know what? It was the only thing I was really good at. I was a good student, but we moved around pretty much every year to a new state. My mom was a total hippie gypsy, not the kind that steals your wallet, but she was the black sheep of her family. We didn't really like my family. They're very small-minded people. And so we would just move and she'd be like, she'd renovate a house, sell it, be like, oh, I have friends who live in this part of the town. Or then I was like learning geography at that time. I'd be like, oh, let's move to the Appalachian Mountains. And we'd just go move to the Appalachian Mountain. Like my mom was game for whatever. So being a new kid in school almost every year, the one thing I always did was I started getting the lead in all the plays. And I'm like, oh, this is really fun. And I remember couple of things. One being in first grade when they have the little village and you have to be the postman for the day and learn what the post office does, or then you're the grocery clerk. And I would never break character. I would come home and I'm like, no, I'm the postman. And my mom's like, no, do your math homework. And I'm like, no, I've got to deliver the mail. And then Universal Studios, my grandma took me and that was the first time I saw movie magic and how they do behind the scenes and how they make thunder and, watching how they make a human fall off of the Statue of Liberty. And that captivated me completely, and then, I got a remember Where's Waldo? The books?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Where's Waldo in Hollywood? I know I was obsessed with it. I was just like, "Look at all that stuff going on. Look at these sets," and so I'd always been kinda mesmerized, and, yeah, that led me out here.
All right, that's fantastic. So yeah, so obviously, yeah, from a young age, you had a lot of, you said, like, leading roles and all of
Yeah, it was
that
the
in
one
different
thing I
plays and
did that
stuff.
was good that everybody knew me in school from, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There you go. There you go. In terms of your major influences on your life, as well as your acting career and the other work that you're doing, are there certain individuals that really stand out to you in terms of like either personally or even public figures that have kind of helped shape who you are?
Yeah, so many. I love and respect the golden era of Hollywood so much, and I was extremely fortunate. I got to work as a junior manager for Tony Curtis, Jack Carter, Phyllis Diller before she passed, Marty Ingalls and Shirley Jones, Lee Merriweather. Um, so I feel incredibly grateful that those were some of the clients I had early on. They were so respectful to everybody. They appreciated what everybody did on set. It was
Mm,
all about community, all about camaraderie, all about coming together for the greater good. There was no ego with any of these stars. And I thought that was so interesting because when you're working with young stars, there's a lot of ego there today. And
mhm.
I'm really happy I have a foundation to learn and witness some of these old classic stars. And, Tony and he would hang up the phone on me constantly because it would take forever to get a deal done because he's like, "Doug, I've known you for 3 years. Call me Tony." And I'm like, "Under no circumstances, Mr. Curtis, will I ever call you Tony." He's like, I'm gonna hang up now." That
Yeah.
was him, and that level of the kindness and respect was, very different. It was a very different time to work. And my first job was an internship with David Shapira. David was an
Mm,
iconic 90s agent. He had like every series regular from every 90s show you can imagine. So he had like the mom from the Brady Bunch, the dad from Family Matters. Yeah, he just had all of these magical TV people. And he was a handshake deal guy. Today, a lot of the bigger agencies, they want to hire lawyers. They want people who can redline, do the contracts. David was an old school agent. He was a handshake deal guy. And I am so lucky that that's where I kind of had my foundation of learning in town,
mm,
because he taught me we've all been stabbed in the back a lot. If you work in this business, it comes with the territory. And oftentimes it's extremely unexpected and it comes at you left field from somewhere you don't expect it. But David taught me you only have one reputation. You can always win, you always make money, you always lose money. You have one reputation in town. So that's most important. And, I don't see that behavior with a lot of the younger agents coming up. So it's a very different Hollywood. I really am classical in that sense. And I try and operate that way.
yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that's refreshing at least that you were able to come in and, like you said, these people didn't really have the big egos and things, because a lot of times naturally you think, okay, in Hollywood, everybody has big egos and all of that. So
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
it's
what?
nice that you got the chance to work with people like that, and that you're trying to kind of take that same approach in dealing with your clients and
Yeah, try
everybody
and keep
else.
it alive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. To kind of shift a little bit to your acting career now. I mean, you played a lot of different roles in films and television, from horror films and TV shows to comedies to dramas, things like that. So, just wondering, do you have a favorite role that you played?
I'm very fortunate that I never got pigeonholed. I'm very
Mhm.
lucky I'm not a leading man because the stuff they have is so predictable and so boring, so vanilla butter on sourdough toast. I'm very, very lucky that I've been able to book comedies and dramas. My absolute favorite, because it is like doing a play, was working on the sitcom Good Luck Charlie,
Mhm.
because you work for a week and it's just like doing a play. You hit your marks, you know it's happening, and then Friday the audience comes in and doing that curtain call at the end, and my mom got to go to my one of my tapings, and that was just really special having her go from like a school play to seeing like, look, you can really do it.
Mhm.
And they don't make sitcoms anymore. And that's such a shame because that environment is so special. So I just feel lucky I've had that experience. And my other favorite was The Babysitter because of the intensity of that scene in the script where it's one movie and then something happens with my character and it switches to a completely different movie. Also getting to like kiss Samara Weaving was not too shabby. That's pretty epic. And yeah, because the pressure of that, it took 20 minutes to go back to one if there's a cut there. So, I there's a lot of pressure to nail that. So I'm sitting in my trailer for like half an hour before normally you mess up, it's not a big deal. Cut, go back to one. This had so much components and special effects that they're if you cut, it's 20 minutes to set up. So
I
that
see.
pressure was shocking, but man, I can't tell you how fun it is. I'm sure it's how stunt drivers feel when they're going
Right.
80 and they have to hit a quick turn without hitting the wall. You think it's like, what the fuck? It's
Right.
nuts, but it's exhilarating. And yeah,
Totally right. Yeah, and a real rush
those are the
actually
things
actually nail
that
that. Yeah.
completely transport you when you're in that zone and you're that connected, you're somewhere else.
Mhm.
And that's what's fascinating about acting when you're able to get somewhere else like that. And then you cut and pull back to yourself. Like, where did you go? That magic, that chemistry. I mean, that's what people
Mhm.
pay for. And it's hard to get to. We
Mhm.
don't get there every time, but when you do, those are yeah, that's what you remember and you go, that's the magic. There's
That's
the
the magic.
magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I saw the trailer for The Babysitter.
Very violent.
Yeah, 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 it is. I saw you in it real quick.
No
It was
coming
like, yeah.
back for the sequel from
So
that.
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. In terms of specific roles that you've considered and everything, are there certain motivations that for you in terms of, "Okay, definitely want this role," or, "I don't want this role?" Is
Honestly, no, I'm not picky enough to be obviously greenlighting a film, so I'm just grateful to work, and like I said, the things I audition for, almost every time I tell my agent or my manager, "This is fantastic. It's an interesting role." And that's what I'm all about. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, we all just wanna work as
right.
actors. I don't think there's anything there's things that have been a little boring, but overall, the things I audition for are really, really fun. And I'm usually just losing out to someone like Rory Culkin. So just gotta make sure some of the people a tier above me are busy enough that then I can sneak in and grab one of those roles.
One of those roles,
Yeah.
right, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but the point is it's fun stuff.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I mean, in terms of your process, so you've got a big day on set, or like you said, I mean, you mentioned about the babysitter with the intensity of that, and just knowing the setup to be involved. So, like, I really have to nail this. Is there a certain way that you prep for a big day on set,
Oh, yeah,
or in terms of mentally and everything else to get yourself ready?
there's a few. I'm a big fan of Michael Chekhov, not to be confused with classical Chekhov. He
Right.
created a technique where basically you do repetitive body movements to get into a certain emotional state.
Oh,
So if I start hitting myself in the chest, it's not that you're hitting yourself hard, but the fluid action again and again and again and again, I'm going to start to become angry.
mm,
And if I start rocking back and forth and place my hands behind my neck, kind of like you think about when I'm in a situation that's made me extremely sad and then I'm falling apart and crying. Breakups come to mind there for my personal substitution. But you're able to mimic that body language with what you do because you know what you do as a human. And if you just repeat that for 5 to 10 minutes, it'll put you in that emotional state without having to do too much work. I'm a big fan of music. So if it's a tough scene, I'll definitely like between cut and action, I'll have earbuds in and just to keep that emotion
yeah,
live. Because it can be difficult to keep a single emotion alive for a few hours.
right.
Or, when you're doing coverage, you've got to keep that emotional state alive. And that's not always easy, but that's what we're paid for. That's the work. Especially if you're
Mhm.
having a day that is completely, you have to be able to tap into whatever it is at that. And so for me, it's not as much imagining this fake world. It's just being in that emotional state and having the preparation and knowing your character and the work will come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I didn't realize that that was something that
Yeah.
actors would do
Michael
and all that.
Chekhov, he
So
wrote a
Michael
great book
Chekhov.
on it. Yeah.
All right, I'll have to explore
And
that
that's what
further. Yeah.
worked for me. Yeah, I
Yeah.
found, I've taken a lot of classes. I'm a big fan of Meisner, but that's what I found technique wise that has really helped me.
Really helped you. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Of the, so again, yeah, you've worked on a lot of different TV shows and films. Is there one in particular that you felt was extremely enjoyable to work? The people you work with, or just being on set was the most fun, or is it
Honestly, that's
was it
such a
not?
hard because it
Yeah,
is all enjoyable. That
yeah,
I haven't I can't think of a set I've been on, even on a low budget indie,
yeah.
where I didn't just love the crew, the camaraderie. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, that's what filmmaking is, and I that's the magic. I mean, that's the happy place to be. That's where
Mhm,
we all want to be when we're on set working and we're collected. That's like I don't know, that's soul food. That feeds your
yeah,
soul, and that's when you're happy. So
mhm,
I don't even the bad experiences were not bad.
yeah,
Some are a lot easier than others. When you have more money, you have a better trailer and better food and all of that, and that's nice. But
mhm,
even if you're working on low budget, it's doesn't take away from how magical and special it is. I have so much respect for the crew. We get to go nap and take a break and these people in 14 hours a day, first one's in, last one's out. They don't get enough respect, which
mhm.
is why I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with the IATSE strike coming up because they will definitely have my full support. They they deserve so much better than what they get.
Absolutely, yeah. They really put in long hours, work
Yeah.
really hard, and
They don't get the recognition or the appreciation they deserve the most.
right. I completely agree. Completely agree.
And, we as act
So,
we're in our bubble, we don't get to hang out with the crew too much, but, see, if we're not working, we're focusing on our character, like, you're not really there to hang out. So the
mhm,
work is important, the work is the work. So in that regard, you don't get to really shoot the shit too much with the
mhm.
crew, but, they're there and I what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just hoping that they get a deal that treats them the way they deserve to be treated fairly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I certainly hope so too, especially in light of last year with the WGA and the SAG strikes and all that. We'll get back to that here shortly. Yeah, no, that's great. So, have you gotten a chance? I mean, in some of these productions, have there been some of the crew members that you've been able to? Have there been some occasions where you have got a chance to kind of get to know some of them, or develop friendships with any of them, or is it really you just really don't have the time?
No, for sure.
Is it?
I
Yeah.
remember shooting my first big movie was in Spain, and we went away, and like co-star. There were four of us American actors who came, and my co-star was a really, really good-looking actor, and so we would go out with all the everyone in crew. But he ended up getting in love triangles with all the girls in the hair and makeup department and the wardrobe department. So we would have to switch out hotel rooms. I mean, they come knock on
Really?
my door thinking it was his door, but he'd be
Oh.
hooking up with like a different girl from a different department over there and, that got really messy, and they like to take us out, they're all Spaniards, and, they can party, and they
Mhm,
like to
yeah,
take the American actors out and just get us messed up and
and
keep us
stay out
out
all
till
night,
5 in the
right? Yeah.
morning, and, yeah, that was a really interesting that was just like a walking carnival, that crew.
Yeah. No, I
But,
bet.
yeah, we had a lot of downtime there, so because they did a lot of rewrites, so the crew would just take us out, and it was
Yeah.
really interesting, we did a lot of things that in America, people would be fired for doing, and so those are great memories.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I bet, and certainly, yeah, in Spain, we know that, yeah, a lot of things don't really get going until midnight or so, so
Yeah.
you're up, like,
Yeah, and
all
they're not
night, so
afraid of, "No, I'm gonna lose my job here for that." Like, that was great.
right, yeah,
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 yeah, fun times.
it sounds like it. That's funny about the love triangles and all that with your
Yeah, it
co-star and everything,
was,
yeah,
it was.
yeah,
He broke a lot of we always joke,
broke a
like,
lot
he's
of
probably
hearts.
got a bunch of blue-eyed children running around in the north of Spain and Basque Country where most people have brown hair and brown eyes.
Right,
Yeah.
that's too funny. So we shift now a little bit to your casting career. So you got into casting, I believe, in about 2016, right? It was one of your
Sounds about right.
I believe in the research that I
Yeah.
did on your life this morning, so me
Yeah.
stalking you this morning. So what was it like for you, though, when you first made that pivot to casting director after being an actor? Obviously, I would think it would be a great benefit to being a casting director after you've been talent, because you obviously you know what it's like to be talent, you know the challenges.
Yeah, it
What
was
was that like?
fascinating. At the time before casting, I had worked at a desk for 4 years as a junior manager, like I was saying with the old guard.
Mhm.
But So I had the benefit of getting to speak to a lot of casting directors on the phone, getting to know them, especially as an actor going in and knowing like what they look like, how they dress, who they are. So you know, you get a sense of people's personalities. And I knew what people so what I did, I just really wanted to know what happened at the other end of the table. What was casting like? It's so foreign. I have no idea. I only know what
Yeah.
it's like to go into the room and audition. I don't know the process. And I called a casting director whose a resume I really appreciated because she's an indie darling who won Sundance twice. Her name's Shannon McCanyon.
Mm.
And we didn't know each other at all, but I said, I really respect your resume. I'd like to maybe intern for you if they're open for that. And she goes, my birthday party's tomorrow. Come. And
Yeah.
I went to this really intimate birthday party. She pretty much ignored me. It was really awkward. And then she came and talked to me because I was like inching out the door. And it was just a really funny thing because she can be a little cold at first. But I
Uh-huh.
mean, not even cold. She was having her birthday party. It was very intimate, though. It wasn't like I was walking into some big party where it's like, oh, of course,
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
looking at me like, we
Intimate,
don't
yeah.
know you. It was weird. So,
Who
I
exists, yeah.
interned for her once and she made me her assistant and then associate. And we've done many, many films together. And so that was, I feel again, lucky that that's where I got my foundation in casting because she was trained by Jane Jenkins and Janet Hershenson, who are this
Mhm.
iconic female casting duo. Um, did all A-list movies and they're like beloved women. They call them ladies of casting. And
Yeah.
so I've got that third generation of training handed down. I've learned all my mistakes the hard way, which was
Mhm.
interesting about Shannon, the way she works, because you remember not to make a mistake if you do it. And then rather than be told, you know
Mhm.
what? So she'd let me take my rope and hang myself
Yeah.
and teach me the lesson that way. But I remember there was a point where I was working at ABC as a casting associate. I was working with Shannon as an associate, and I had just started a movie that let me be the casting director. Someone had owed me a favor, and he said, I know I owe you this. I don't have a lot of money, but this movie is going to be really special. It's called Late in America. And he gave that to me. And that was the first time I got to be a CD and not an associate or an assistant. But I was working two full-time casting jobs at the time. So I remember at ABC, I'd be like falling asleep on the couch in Mary Jo Slater's office. And she'd come in and be like, think I was like the laziest person. What are you doing napping on my couch? And I'm like, I'm just dead, tired and like barely functioning. But it was amazing because I had so much going on at that time. And this was really great. She had an assistant who I don't know if she was threatened by me or just hated me. Um, really, really evil woman named.
Okay.
Pl-
Yeah.
and
Name
so
drop.
when I was having my producer sessions for the movie I was casting, our producer, our money guy, flew in from New York on his private plane, and I had asked Mary Jo's assistant, "Can I do these sessions here? Should I ask Mary Jo? She's so busy." And she's like, "No, no, no. I run the office. You can." And she's like, "I'll clear it." And she's like, "Doug,
Yeah.
you've got it tomorrow from 7 to 9 p.m." And I'm like, "Oh, amazing! Thank you so much." And it wasn't that weird bringing actors in for 7 to 9 p.m. because it was at a studio lot. It was at ABC, and so it wasn't that weird. So I was just going to do that after work. So we got session coming. All the actors are in the waiting room. I'm bringing them in. We're working with them. Fun times. My cell phone rings and it's Miss Mary Jo Slater. And she's like, Doug, what are you doing in my office? Did I tell you you could run a session in my office? I'm about to have security walk over right now. And I'm like, well, oh, but your assistant. Why would you talk to her? My office. I'm like, because you're extremely busy. And like, I didn't thought that was inappropriate. I'm about to have security come. Why shouldn't I? I'm like, this is my first movie, please. And she's like, okay. All right, I'll tell him to turn around. Have fun. And that would have just been horrifically embarrassing.
Right.
So we thank you, Mary Jo,
Thank you.
for
Right.
everything's a great with that process. I remember I was just so exhausted on the last day of casting. I fell asleep at 10 p.m. on my friend's mom was being my intern for free to help me out. And I fell asleep on her lap after session in the lobby for about 2 hours.
Oh, really?
And I
Okay.
woke up and all the lights were up. She was just sitting there staring at me. And I'm like, why didn't you wake me up? And she's like, you're running on fumes. You needed to sleep. That was a nice people had ever done. She let me sleep on
Just
her
let me
lap
sleep on her
for
for a few
2 hours.
That's great.
Yeah, so really earned my stripes there. But the movie
Yeah.
ended up premiering at the O2 in London and Universal Studios. It had a major red carpet. So I mean, it was a
That's
really,
exciting.
really cool thing to be your first movie. And, it had these two influencers attached named KSI. It's really big now in Casper Lee. And I thought, oh man, this is kind of the beginning before that was normal to have any integration between classic actors and influencers. I'm like, oh, how am I
Yeah.
going to get any good
Just
actors to work with these people that are they don't even do skits. One plays video games, like,
right.
what's the pitch here? Ah, and Angela Kinsey played my mom in a movie called Hotbot. And I forget, I had done something really nice for her and she had said she owed me a favor for that. So I took her out to sushi And I said, "Well," because the script was really good. And I said, "Will you read this and consider this?" And she's like, "Well, I like
Yeah.
the script, and I'd like to pull my favorite card here and have you sign on." And she's like, "Okay, well, favor's a favor, and I like the script." So she did, and then UTA with her agents were calling me, and her lawyers were calling me. I was like, "This is never gonna happen. This is not happening." They sent me back tons of red lines, and I called her crying, of course, and just like, "Oh, no, 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 let me just call them." And then she had shut that down and, so once someone like her signs on it, you get a domino effect. So then I got Bobby Lee right away and Angela Trimber, and the cast just filled out with these remarkable character actors, which is exactly what I wanted. But, that's the thing with casting, it's a puzzle. Nobody ever wants to really be the first fish to jump in the pond, so to speak, but that's the trick once you get somebody in, and I'm just so grateful to this day Angela said yes, because if she didn't, I wouldn't have had that amazing cast. Everybody liked the script, but they weren't willing to dive in. It's like, "You go first, you go first." I don't know. I don't think it would have been the same movie by any means. So you
Mhm.
have these amazing, incredibly accomplished character actors and TV actors who were able to basically, support and lift up the leads who hadn't had that experience of being actors on set before. To surround people with great people, you can get a great product.
No, that's great. That's great. Is there anything in particular that casting that you enjoy the most? Is there something that really
The
gets you
process
excited about it?
is really fun. I don't like today where it's all stripped away, meaning you only have self-tape.
Mhm.
The best part of the job is bringing actors into the room and working with you because everybody's got an energy. I
Yeah.
remember people I've maybe only met once 12 years ago. You remember their energy. They came in the room, and the other people are like, "I auditioned for you on a self-tape 2 months ago, don't you remember?" And I'd watch the tape, and I'm like, "No," because when you're looking at a tape, you're only looking for the role, just the role.
Mhm.
And if
Right.
somebody's not the role, you got yeah, so whereas in a session, I remember your energy, I remember your essence, so I'm gonna think even if you're completely wrong for that part, I'm like, You'll be in my head for something in the future that could match and bring you in for that," and that's the magic of casting and casting directors and putting that puzzle together. And it's a shame if we don't go back to in-person sessions. I don't know how young actors will be able to genuinely connect with
Mhm.
anybody. And they're just going to throw tapes out into the ether and, wonder if they ever get seen. At least in an office, you get to come in and say, like, I did my work today. I
Right.
got seen. I made an impression.
Made an impression, right. Yeah, you can kinda get to know the person a little bit, and like you said, you get
Yeah.
that
And that's the fun
sense of
part
that
of the
essence,
job,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would yeah, it seems like, yeah, with definitely with the self-tapes that you lose a lot of that. You lose a
We
lot of that
lose all of
connection.
it.
All of it, yeah.
Yeah. It's not
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely
It's
not.
not fun for anybody, not fun for casting. Like, we're just
Mhm.
sitting there watching. We can't stop you and redirect you because a lot of people, they might be great, great look, right thing, but they're making the wrong choices. Really simple redirect, but obviously you
Mhm.
can't redirect a tape.
Right, right.
So you can't, it's unfortunate because
Mhm.
they could be great, but they could just be making the wrong choices and then you're moving fast and they're out of the running.
Mhm. Yeah. But you said you so you often know think about, I mean, certain people that might come in and, for an audition, and like you said, they may not be right for a particular role, but a lot of times they will stick in your mind, and
Yeah, and that's
there's
why it's a
cases where
career
you end
you
up
only get better and better at as you go. As you grow, you're only meeting more actors and working on more things, and all that's a library and index in your head. And that's why it's an exciting career in the way that you're only going to get better as you go.
absolutely. Is there a particular film that you've casted or that you're most proud of?
There's a film I cast out of London that shot in Tbilisi, Georgia called The Other Me. I'm very proud of that casting. The cast in that. David Lynch EP'd it. So that obviously helped open a lot of doors. And that was really special because that afforded me the opportunity to go around London and meet all the top agents at all the top agencies. I remember I was meeting Olivia Colman's agent, whose name's Olivia Holman at
Oh,
United in London. And I was in her office and Olivia Colman called and Olivia was like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, "I should go. I should leave." And she's like, "No, no, no, I should put you on speakerphone." She's like, "Oh, my new friend Doug is here in the office. Say hi." And she's like, "Oh, hi, Doug. Welcome to London." I'm like, "This is surreal," because the Brits are so open. They love their actors. It's a really amazing market to work in because they go to theater. They love actors. And I'm not used to that on the agency side in America, generally speaking, where a lot of people you're casting a movie and they're sending you their ideas, and you're like, "Did you even read the script? This person is completely wrong." And they're like, "Yeah, but they're on fire right now. They're doing this TV show." And I'm like, "But that's not what I'm looking
that's not what I'm
for."
looking for. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but yes, I really appreciated the Brits. I'd love to work in there more, but that was just a beautiful cast. And obviously, Mr. Lynch's name helped a lot. But If you look at that cast, it's something I'm very proud of, especially on the budget that we got these people. But it's just a testament to what a great script can bring.
Mhm. Oh. Oh, yeah. So to kind of pivot now a little bit to the work now you're doing as a commercial associate now working with people for commercial actors and things, just wondering how's that going, how is that different from being a casting director, how
It's fun.
yeah,
It's going. I So two things happened over COVID. Obviously, everything shut down, but
right,
commercials were still shooting. So I knew that. I'm like, oh well, okay. Well, I don't know. What do I do with that? And then I had happened to book the biggest commercial job of my life, which was an iPhone 10 commercial. I was the first person, I guess, outside of Apple corporate to ever hold the iPhone 10, which with the new portrait mode. And that
oh
was really
wow,
funny because I didn't know what I
that's what
booked. And I went to set and they're like, are you ready to see the device? And I'm like, I don't even know what but sure. The audition was me pretending I have a camera and just like clicking a camera at a girl and like, oh, take a photo, so that was the audition. And
all
so
right,
this woman comes in a power suit with literally like a bodyguard with a gun in my trailer. We're the only three
okay,
people there with a
okay,
cooler, like we're going on a picnic. She opens the cooler. She's like, there's the device. I'm like, okay, it's an iPhone commercial. I'm like, it looks exactly like my iPhone, no different. I was
yeah,
expecting an alien head. And
the
and so she's like,
device, right,
here's
yeah,
what they want you to do. This is a thing called portrait mode. And she taught it to me. She's like, so we want you to do this, this, and this on camera. And I'm like, okay, so I'm practicing a little bit. And I'm like, come to set, come to set. And so I'd go to set thinking I'm gonna, practice. But every time they're ready to shoot, so I had no practice time. They took the phone away from me and they put in a styrofoam brick in my hand. And they're like, you can practice with that. And because they're so paranoid of people up in the, we were shooting in downtown LA, people taking photos or something of
okay,
this device.
right,
So, it was ridiculous because I couldn't practice the move, like, "Just do the styrofoam," and they only gave me the foam when we're rolling, so it was ridiculous, but,
yeah,
that was one of those 1 in a million commercials you're lucky to get, and paid a lot of money, and I was like, "There's my security blanket," for a while, and
that's
my
good,
my agent, who was my agent for 12 years at the time, my commercial agent, Jordan McKirahan of JMTA, I was also best man at his wedding, he was my best friend for 12 years. He stole all the money and just ran, just bounced,
really,
took everything that came in that month in client escrow, just pieced out, and
really,
had
oh man,
and it's so wacky because he was doing really, really, really well, and I watched him build this company brick by brick by brick for 12 years.
for 12 years,
And
yeah,
if I had booked this any other time in the 12 years, I would have had my money.
right,
So that was insane, that betrayal
yeah,
and realizing that. And we went and did a Hollywood Reporter and Deadline did an expose on it because this was the first time an agent had stolen so much money since Peter Strain in like 1991. Meaning, a lot of high A level agents will steal, like Johnny Depp's people might have been sifting. You get those.
mhm, a
You do
little bit,
not
yeah,
get a working actor, kind of like not famous meat and potato working actors getting robbed at mass like that.
right,
So when I saw the other actors who he'd robbed from, some had only been 1,000 or 500. Well, I shouldn't say only because money means different things to different people and they probably needed that money. But I saw all these actors for the photo shoot at the park on the picnic table. And my heart broke. And I'm like, there's a bunch of homeless actors and, not actors without a home. And I said,
right,
fuck Jordan McKirahan. I've worked in
mm,
this business. I've had a desk job since I was 17. Just because I've never worked in commercials before, he's not that special. I'm going to do his job. I'm going to do it better. I'm going to give all these deserving actors a home until they find another home. So for me, it was a temporary idea. I got a
mhm,
license, and from the state, I got on the breakdowns I needed, the grid, and all of a sudden I was in business. The hardest thing to do is get the client escrow account, which is really hard to get if you're a young business owner. But
mhm,
measled my way into that. So we were in business and I had some of them and I went to like 19 of my good friends because what do I know from casting? I know a lot of talented people and a lot of people love their film and TV managers and agents, but they don't love their commercial. You don't meet a lot of people who are like, I love my commercial agent. A lot of people
mhm,
feel very unseen and like they're spaghetti being thrown at a wall and they're just a type. And so I, did a handshake deal with a handful of my friends. I'm like, I have no idea if we'll make a dollar, but can I try? And they're like, yeah, Dougie, go for it. And I started doing really well right away, just knocking at the door every day, pitching. And all of a sudden, yeah, I knew once people gave me some attention, my friends would go and seal the deal. I only know like, the friends I have in my life are extremely talented. So I knew they just needed to get in and be seen.
Mhm.
And so I worked really hard for about 2.5 years running my own company called Blue Talent Agency. I was getting really overwhelmed doing all the admin and all of that. So I was lucky I made enough money to be eligible to go work at a big boy agency. So I joined one of the top 10, and I was, they went through my accounting and my books and vetted me out. And I work at Eris now, which I love. It's a women-owned company. And even though we're corporate, we don't run corporate. We work as a family and as a team. And it's the most family-like, healthy, respectful work environment I've ever been in. So I'm
Mhm.
really appreciating it, and I've never, ever thought I'd work in commercials or be on this path. So it's funny because that was obviously one of the most heartbreaking times of my life when I was robbed. At the same time, I was also going through a divorce, and my ex had stolen my savings accounts. And, when you're dealing with other countries, it's kind of like goodbye money. What you're going to spend all your money to go through The Hague to get this amount of money. So it was pretty
Mhm.
devastating. Basically, I was getting robbed and stabbed in the back by two of the people I trusted most in my world. But looking back, I'm like, if that hadn't have happened, I would never have gone into commercials. And I feel like this is a really happy place to be. I make money for people that I genuinely adore and care about, and then I get to take a chunk of it for myself. So at the end of the day, I really hope I get to see Jordan McCurahan again to say thank you. Who knew that that betrayal would actually end up such a blessing in my life?
Yeah.
Because the money I'm making has far surpassed what that huge paycheck was that I lost and was so torn up about.
Yeah, it's very
Very
interesting. Very
interesting.
interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, good for you for being able to turn something like such a difficult situation and such a painful situation, that kind of betrayal, to turn that around though, and to kind of have that redirect you a little bit, and then
Yeah.
I mean go in this different
The
path, which it
people
sounds
I
like you're really happy with.
admire the most in you have to pivot in this
Yeah.
industry. I mean, look how different it is. When I came in, we had DVDs, hard copy headshots in David Spears' office. I'd go cut the headshot to the resume, staple it, and like, hurry up before the courier comes. And the courier's a man in a van with a bag who takes it like mail. And now it's just digital. No one needs hard copy headshots anymore. All those printing companies are out of business. All
Right.
of those courier companies are out of business. It's like, I have no idea what 5 years from now is going to look like. But I have faith that companies will still be advertising. We will still have advertising budgets. And hopefully we'll still be around long enough that the CGI isn't too advanced that we still want humans.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Otherwise,
mean,
I'm going to need to start repping some
perhaps
robots.
the robots, right?
Yeah.
There you go. It's interesting though, yeah, the whole thing with, yeah, AI technology and everything, just where it's going, and all of that. I kind of wanted to ask you actually about that, about the new SAG contract and everything. What your thoughts are on the contract, and what your thoughts are on, does it go far enough in terms of protections for any
What
site?
I know right now at all the, CAA and WME, they're scanning their
Mhm.
stars. And that's pretty scary that we're at that point right now, at that precipice. I don't even know because I couldn't have imagined a few years ago that writers of all occupations could be replaced by AI. I would have thought that may
Right.
be the safest place to be a creative writer. And now I
Mhm.
can ask my chatbot to write me a play in the style of Mark Twain and the Golden Girls mashed together in 5 acts and I'll get it. Like, what?
Right.
And I'll get it in 10 seconds. So I don't know. I'm honestly terrified that we're there and it's happening that quickly. I struggle to think even what a year from now is gonna look like for anybody in the creative field. I
Right.
Yeah.
You do wonder
You
because the technology
wonder,
is only gonna improve, and you think,
yeah,
you
but are
know
we really replacing human contact and human relationships in a people-oriented business? I mean, I guess in some ways, but I don't know I don't know, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, it's
I could
tough.
think about it, just ruminates in my head because it goes a million different directions.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's tough to kind of to figure that out exactly. How do you, yeah, how can you, regulate it such that people
Was
maybe could use it for some general ideas, but then not actually then writing full scripts, and then not using people's work, and then feeding it to AI to train the machine, and
Yeah.
how to, without
I
compensating people and
don't
all of
like
that.
that I
So that's,
see everything becoming a gig economy. They don't want
mhm,
right, to be a showrunner, you have to be a writer. Most writers wanna become a showrunner, there's a process. You
right.
climb the ladder. They don't want people being showrunners now, so they're trying to do writers as gigs, so they're not being on set, not having that experience, coming in, just doing some writing and leaving. If we turn everything into a gig, I don't how horrible does that sound? Where's the creativity? Where's the connection? Everything's going to be so discombobulated and disconnected from each other within each department, from the writing to the wardrobe to the actors.
Mhm.
Who's going to be on set giving notes on a script? If the director's there that week because doesn't really work on the show, I mean, I just,
Mhm.
it's bizarre. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a bizarre it is really strange,
We're
and
living
it's
in the most interesting time in film since silent films came over to talkies.
mhm. Yeah, it just seems like the changes are happening more and more rapidly, and they're more dramatic, it seems like, and it's, yeah, it's a very and of course, yeah, a lot of the reason why the strikes went on as long as they did, I think, was trying to figure out that AI piece and trying to do it now instead of
Yeah, but
letting
I
that
mean, our
technology get too
contracts
far involved,
negotiate
right?
every 3 years, but man,
Right.
3 years is hard to think about, isn't it?
Right, it is. It really is. Yeah, and I'm curious too about, Yahtzee and about what happens there in those negotiations.
Yeah.
Do you see that potentially going to a strike as well?
Absolutely, and if it
Yeah,
needs to, they deserve to get their wishes, and I sincerely hope the Screen Actors Guild and the other guilds support them,
right.
because we would be nothing without them, and we need to recognize how hard they work.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely putting in long hours, no doubt. And I think that was a good thing about the strikes was last summer. You did see seems like a lot of support. You had a lot of the SAG members supporting the WGA before SAG went on strike. And then I think, WGA some members supporting SAG and all
Yeah,
that. So yeah, hopefully it'll be multiple, support from all the different
I
unions.
hope it's like we're dealing. I love what Fran Drescher said. We're dealing with a very evil entity. Can't look at them like people. It's bottom line, it's corporate, it's Wall
Hmm.
Street. There's no humanity at the executive level. In the 70s, they said once you start taking the creatives out of the executive positions at studios and the creativity is gone, it's only money driven, everything's going to, that's why 70s were the golden age of Hollywood. We
Yeah.
were employing, or studios were employing creatives to be creative executives. Now,
Hmm.
creative executives are coming over from Goldman Sachs and they're
Hmm.
only concerned about bottom line. How does that make sense? So
Right.
what there's no conscious or thought of human beings. It's bottom dollar to their investors. That is a terrifying thing to negotiate with. And I love that Fran called it an evil entity. We're not dealing with people. We're dealing
Hmm.
with bottom line corporations who could give a fuck
Right.
about humans.
Right. It's just all about driving revenue, profit margins, and all that. And I would think too, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. I mean, in terms of like, for instance, just the prevalence now of like franchise films and things. It seems like a lot of times now the studios are because you have a lot of these people, like you said, that are coming from Goldman Sachs or coming from, you know, very much corporate America, not the creative side, where they're just sort of playing it safe and trying to, reduce the risk and just saying, okay, let's just, pump out another Marvel film
Yeah.
or whatever because hey, because we know we at least have this built-in
Yeah. Well,
audience.
that's
It's just
IP, and that's exactly that. Anything we can
mhm,
that's why you see everything being a remake because it's not a gamble. Everybody wants some type of incorporated audience, and, if you remake or have anything that's already been established, there is gonna be some type of fan base there. And that's a shame because we're killing everyone's creativity in order to take a chance and make something new. Like,
right.
there's so much room for new how much Chips and Matlock and Murder, She Wrote. What is the next Murder, He Wrote? Murder, They, Them Wrote next? Like, and I just
Right.
really wanna know who has Gumby and why haven't we brought Gumby back?
There you go. That'd be good.
You're bringing all
I'd be
this
down
stuff
for
back.
Gumby
Bring
back. Yeah.
Gumby back.
Yeah. I like Gumby. I'd be down with that. I think a lot of people would. Um, well, that's really cool. It's interesting. Where do you see things? I mean, another 10 years with the industry.
I
Like,
can't.
I mean,
Because if
okay,
you told me 2 years ago this would be happening, I would be like, "No." You
right?
know?
Please
No.
not. This
Yeah,
sounds
you're
very
taking too
dystopian,
much
right?
mushrooms. Yeah.
Right.
I can't even imagine, but I'm looking forward to it, because I
Yeah.
mean, this is, at some point, you're so deep in the mud, like you swam so deep into the mud of Hollywood, there's no going back. Like, show business is my life. This is what I do. So I'll be here to if I'm alive, I'll be here to tell you and I'll be here living it, but I can't even imagine. I
Yeah.
really can't. We
Yeah.
don't know what technology is gonna be like in a few years.
You're right. Yeah. It's just changing so rapidly
I
as
worry we're
far
all
as,
gonna be like the surrogates eventually. Do you remember that movie with Bruce Willis, Jonathan Mostow direct? People are just getting fat in their lazy boy chairs and they're putting on their, 3D glasses and they're living their virtual life. And then
right.
someone comes and kills the electricity grid and they all get shocked and die. But, eventually the state of the economy and we look at how sad and lonely so many people are. I don't think we're that far removed from a world where people will be living their digital life more than their real life.
Mhm.
We're not that far away from that.
Yeah, yeah, you can see that. It does seem like there's some people that I know that seem to almost be more comfortable almost in a digital world or
Yeah.
on social media than almost, in real life interaction with
Yeah, I
people,
thought it
which
was
is interesting.
interesting. I read that a lot of people, majority, I think it was like 70% would rather take an Uber without a human, a self-driving car, than have a human interaction.
Is that
And
right?
I just find that weird because I'm all about the human interaction, but I didn't
Yeah.
realize that many people
Yeah, I'm surprised it'd be
weren't.
that much. Yeah, because I enjoy it too. I mean, always when I'm in, doing Uber or something like that,
Yeah.
I'm always chatting with the driver the whole time.
So
And
maybe we'll all just
you
be
know,
doing video games and stuff, you know?
and I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe wouldn't it be great if you're an actor and you could just like the A-listers just rent out their likeness? Like, here's your paychecks for doing nothing. We scanned you.
right.
That sounds like a dream. So
Yeah.
typical that the top of the food chain gets it easier because
Gets it
I see it
easier.
progressing. I don't know what the meat and potato actors are gonna do.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know what agents are gonna do.
Mhm.
It's scary how corporate everything is becoming with ICM joining CAA and,
Right.
I don't know, it's and Gersh acquiring so much of A3, especially their digital department.
Right.
I worry like what are reps gonna be repping?
Hmm. No, it's very interesting. Very interesting for sure. What about you personally? Where would you like to see yourself? I know it sounds like a very much an interview question for a job
In
or something,
Puerto Vallarta. No,
but
they
yeah,
are
there you
shooting a
go.
lot. They're shooting a lot of commercials in Mexico, so,
Okay. Do
yeah.
they do a lot in Puerto Vallarta?
Not
Is that right?
there, they do a lot of reality TV show there, but Mexico City, they're doing a ton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
I don't know, I guess maybe flying in from work for work, I mean, flying into LA for work and then, you know,
Okay.
being somewhere
Living
else.
down there, living somewhere
What a
else.
luxury, though, we can be other places. I never thought I'd be able to travel until I was retired or in my 50s just
Yeah.
because of being in LA, you have to be here.
Yeah.
And everybody really only got 2 weeks at Christmas between them and New Year's and Hanukkah and New Year's. That was it. That was it. So everybody disconnected, went to Europe, but other than that, you had no real vacation. So, I
Right.
mean, I feel so lucky I've been able to work, in commercials, I can work from anywhere. All I need is my iPad, even my phone, just a phone, and I'm in business, which is
Good.
pretty crazy.
That
It's pretty
is.
amazing to be able to go see the world now and
That's great.
yeah, because there's no better education than seeing the world.
Seeing the world, right?
Yeah.
Meeting people,
Yeah.
being immersed in different cultures
Yeah,
and
you
things.
gotta go for, like, a month. I don't go
Yeah.
anywhere if I'm not there for, like, a month. You
Yeah.
gotta immerse, exactly as you
That's
said.
cool.
Gotta immerse.
Where, just curious, some interesting places maybe you've been recently or where you'd like to go next?
I've only been in LA, like, 15 days, and it's what,
Yeah.
March 10th? Since, like, the New Year? I went to
Yeah.
Tulsa, Oklahoma to look at properties out there, and
Mhm.
because 'cause they're saying it's booming. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe. Maybe they're like, "It's gonna be the next Austin."
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is that what people are saying? Okay.
Yeah, there but I what it there's some beautiful the rich people there, the billionaires really invest back into it. Like, they build these beautiful community centers and I think that's really nice because people in New York and LA, they make their bags of money and like, "Bye, bitches," you know? So that community spirit is really cool, but, I mean, it's
Yeah.
tiny, it's got their little arts district, quote, unquote, but,
Mhm.
you know what? I just try and keep it random, go to some comedy, go to open mics here, go to a music night here, and you realize you might be in different environments, but you're seeing all the same people everywhere, so it's really tiny.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, so there's only this amount of people to meet in
Yeah.
Tulsa."
Right.
Loved Dallas, good theater scene there, so clean, beautiful people. So, yeah, I've been spending time in the South, finding, people to work with in these commercial markets. Austin has a thriving commercial market. So I'm hoping, it's really nice to collect people in the South that never knew this could be a job or never knew they could make
Mhm.
this kind of money and help guide them and, up their income and make them feel creative and artistic. And it's a blessing. It's very, very, very cool.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. I bet a lot of
Makes
people
you
are
feel good.
very excited. Yeah, I bet it does. I bet it does. And you're right. A lot of people, it
And people
opens
don't know
a lot of
unless you
people's
don't.
eyes. They don't know about
Yeah,
these
they don't have
opportunities, right?
connections to Hollywood. They don't.
Right.
And I'm coming in, I'm just like, you're special. You got this.
You got
We're gonna do this now. And it's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome. Well, I just really have just one last question, really, and I'm just curious if you could interview an actor, if you were to interview an actor, who would it be and why? Is there anyone in particular that you think would be especially interesting?
Oh man, Charlie Chaplin and Cillian Murphy. Not because he just won the. I've been a fan
Okay.
of Cillian Murphy since Breakfast at Pluto, and
Yeah.
I think he's exactly the movie star we need. I love that he is just about the art and his private life, how it used to be. There is no. There's his work. There he's private, and that's what it. That's the movie star we need. That's what it should be. We should not be looking at their lives and trying to emulate or like where are they going out to eat? Where It should be
Mhm.
about the work. And Charlie Chaplin, just because, oh my God, he did it all, right?
Right, yeah.
What a legend. How?
How right, yeah.
He was everywhere too. This was before like, Concorde planes and stuff. Like, how was he in England here, and then he's here, and he's in France doing this, and then he's like Ben Franklin back in the day, right? Like, how is he in Paris, and then he's back in Washington? It's crazy.
Yeah, all over the place,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Excellent, excellent. All right, well, Doug, thank you so much for joining us today. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it
very
on
much.
Hollywood Holmes or our inaugural episode here, but it's been a real pleasure.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
This episode of Hollywood Homes is brought to you by Sorriso Ristorante and Bar, Pasadena's culinary gem where the flavors of Italy come alive. Located right in the heart of Pasadena, California, Sorriso offers dining, banquets, weekend brunch, a wide variety of spirits, live entertainment, and hosts live events. They also offer delivery. So if you're in the Pasadena area and you want a great place to eat authentic Italian, celebrate with friends and family, or just enjoy some live or nighttime entertainment, then stop by Sorriso at 46 East Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena, California, or call at 626-405-1000 and book your reservation at Sorriso Ristorante and Bar.